Welcome to Word Up Bumpy on the 25th of October 2023. 2 months to special holiday for some people. We are at WP Pompey on Twitter or X. We'll find out soon about something else we could use. We use the hashtag WP Pompey and hash online WP Meetup. On UK Slack, we're the Meetup Portsmouth channel. And if you want to find out about WordPress Pompey, you can go to the website where you can read our code of conduct, which everyone must have read multiple times. Today's meeting is entitled Show and Tell Again, More Lightning Talks, and that covers the lightning talks that didn't happen last month, and also some suggestions from members who wanted to hear about certain things that they didn't necessarily hear last month, or because they're brand new and unfortunately aren't here, want to know about. So we'll try to cover those. Moving on. So historically, we've been sponsored by 34SP and Red IT, both of whom offer discounts on web hosting. Scott McEwen says he offers 25% discount on web hosting. All you've got to do is type in Word Up, and 34SP will give you a 3-month trial if you use WP Pompey. I haven't tried that recently, but I assume it still works. This video is being recorded. This Zoom meeting is being recorded, and here we are today, and these are the lightning talks we might want to cover. Mastodon from Drew, an alternative to Twitter/X. Never got in touch with Mike Murphy, therefore he's not going to talk about WPMU Dev. I thought we could talk about 2024, which is the new theme bundled in WordPress 6.4. Somebody requested how to build useful custom blocks, and there is something else with A and Other. Those A and Others are a question from somebody who's first-time person, but she's not here today. I'm very new to this, so step-by-step hosting your own website with WordPress would be great. And our pal Steve here says, how do I upgrade from PHP 7.3 to 8.2 in situ? So we might cover that as well. So here we go. Straight into the first thing, Mastodon.
So, yeah, I just thought I'd do a sort of introduction to Mastodon for people who may have wondered what it is. It's interesting because Automatic and WordPress are getting very excited about Mastodon. And I've been using it on my site now since about April this year. So what is Mastodon? Well, it's a microblog. So I think famously most people know about Twitter. Twitter was one of the biggest microblogs. It allowed you to basically post small updates and the world could see your posts. What has happened recently, obviously, is somebody has bought Twitter and has decided to do different things with Twitter. It's now called X. But one of the things that Mastodon seeks to do is to decentralize the information. So when you posted to Twitter, or indeed to somewhere like Facebook or Instagram, your post was only stored on their servers. So if they chose to change the way that the algorithm worked, or they wanted you to pay to reach your viewers, which is what happened to a lot of business pages on Facebook, you could have hundreds of followers of your page, but unless you boosted the post and paid some cash to Facebook, only a small percentage of those tended to see it. So the idea of decentralization is you can post from anywhere, and anybody using the right protocol can view those posts. So the idea of centralized is things like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, says there, and the federated is things like the email system. So I might have an email with gmail.com, you might have an email with outlook.com, and yet we can email each other and read those emails. Obviously, things like the phone networks and the physical networks are the same thing. You don't have to be with the same provider in order to dial that person. You can be on anybody. And that's what Mastodon seeks to do with microblogging. It uses a protocol called ActivityPub, and that's a standard that's been put together by the social web networking group of the World Wide Web Consortium. And they first published its recommendation, the standard, in 2018. So it's been going around for a while now. As it is federated, this means that your site can post using the ActivityPub protocol. And that's achieved by installing a plugin from the WordPress repository, which is called ActivityPub. And that's the header for it. If you go to the WordPress repository, and that's the link if you want to look for it, or just search for ActivityPub. It was created by a German guy, I believe, Matthias. I can't pronounce his last name, Feral, I think. Anyway, I'm butchering that. And he was updating it for quite some time. And then earlier this year, Automatic acquired both him and the plugin. And actually, very recently, they have switched it on for all WordPress.com blogs. So if you have a blog on WordPress.com rather than a self-hosted one, you can just go to the settings and the discussion panel and switch on Become Federated. And any of your future posts will be available to any of the federated sites. If you load in the ActivityPub plugin, which you need to do if you have WordPress on your own hosting, then you also get a settings panel. And basically, you can choose to go one two ways. And this seems to be in a recent update as well. When I installed it in April, I think it would only enable authors. So basically, if you had multiple authors on your WordPress blog, each one of them would have a profile on Mastodon, and people could follow those posts specifically. And this new setting says you can actually make the whole blog become, or the whole site become a profile, which is a bit easier because I'll mention a bit later, I fell foul of usernames. Within the same settings panel, there's ways that you can choose how your post content is going to appear. So here I've used a slightly custom version. So there's the title, the excerpt, and the hashtags. Now, interestingly enough, there's a setting that allows you to transfer your tags for the post into hashtags that are then used in the federated universe or Fediverse. So as you can see on the right there, that's how my post comes out using those settings. So the title doesn't get bolded, even though I did try strong on there. But I think some clients might do it. The excerpts there, and then those tags are those hashtags rather are tags within my own site. But it does then mean anybody in Mastodon or the Fediverse who are looking for posts using Swift UI or WatchOS will discover my post, which is quite useful. Things to bear in mind, as I was saying earlier, your username becomes your handle. So if you choose the setting that says, I just want my whole site to be the handle, then you do get to pick like a little prefix. Otherwise, your login name or your login username becomes your handle. So if you log in using admin, for instance, then you will be admin at domain, your domain. And I normally, because I tend to install all my plugins using an administrator, that's the one I tend to log in mostly, but I don't like using admin. So I use a sort of convoluted username, which I then didn't want becoming public on Mastodon. So I then had to create a user for myself to post with blogs. And then either when you create your post, you can select who the author is, or you can just log in as that author and create a post. But yeah, it did make me think, oh, okay, that's not as straightforward as I was hoping. The other thing to be aware of is that because it's a protocol that the ActivityPub it uses something called WebFinger in order to be discovered. So whenever you type in Mastodon something like admin at wppompey.org.uk, the site goes and tries to find a response. It's basically a JSON object. But to do that, it uses the .well-known folder. And for some reason, well, some hosts definitely do block it, because some of my hosts, I had to raise a support ticket in order for them to allow that to work. And because at the moment it's quite a new thing. I mean, it's been going since 2018, but obviously not that many people are asking the hosts about it. There was a little bit of back and forth, but they did manage to get it working for me. And yet some of my other hosts, we just loaded the plugin and you just went on straight away, which is quite nice. When somebody is using Mastodon, they can either go to the website and they can create a user profile. It's very, very much like using Twitter. The Mastodon apps, there are several out there. I use one called Ice Cubes. Mastodon, as an organization, has one called Mastodon. And you'll see in the middle there, that's somebody's profile. So you can follow them. You can see how many they're following, how many followers they have. On the right, there is a post. So you can see this is the creator of the plugin, mentioning that WordPress in Automatic have now switched it on for WordPress.com. So for most people, it actually feels very familiar. It's just the starting a profile in the first instance can be a little more sticky, because there isn't one place that you can go to. The reason why Mastodon is so good is it's decentralized. That can also be a little bit of a problem, because you need to choose where you want your profile to be. But if we have our own site on WordPress.com, that solves some of the problem. And the other thing I quite liked was, this is one of my posts. If somebody replies on Mastodon, it becomes a comment on your website. So it's quite nice that your site becomes almost the single point of truth. And although people can follow it using different websites and different apps, you still own that content. It's not owned by some big corporation that switch it off or put it behind a paywall. And that sort of social interaction also appears on that page as well. So I thought that was a really good use of the system. And then there's a couple of tools that can help you. As I said, WebFinger, if you're having trouble with the plugin, if you use webfinger.net, you can search for your author page, and it gives you some responses like whether you're getting a 403 forbidden, which you can then go to your hosts with. You'll see on the right there, there's some blocks within Gutenberg now, so you can do follow me on the Fediverse, and it will automatically use your author profile. You can also have your followers listed in a block if you want to. The other one I quite liked, it's actually a different author, but he's done a few things for Mastodon. I think he has helped with this plugin in the past as well. Somebody called Alex created one called Friends, and it makes your site the opposite side. So mostly ActivityPub is about, you publish a post, it gets sent out into the Fediverse. Anybody in the Fediverse can read that post. But the Friends plugin allows you to follow people. So this is the Friends plugin on my site. So I could just stay on my site, and that's a post from 9to5Mac, which is a organization I follow in the Fediverse. And you can just view it in the dashboard, which I thought was quite nice. So again, you can reply, you can reblog, you can boost, and you basically stay in your site. You don't need to ever get another app or another website. So again, that seems to be another benefit of decentralization. So that is an introduction. Anybody got any questions?
Here we go. Can you hear me now? Thanks, Drew, for that. I didn't have any idea about the plugin stuff. So if you're not using the plugin, how does it work how do you choose which network you're supposed to connect to?
So you can go to, and I think you had it on that first slide in your presentation, there's join mastodon.org, and they will list all the servers that are publicly available. And you'll find that there are servers out there for people who are independent authors. I joined originally a site for mobile app developers. So it means you can go to somewhere where you're going to connect with people with similar interests. But because you are part of Mastodon, you can then follow anybody in the Fediverse. And there's also a site called pixelfed.com, I think. And it's like an alternative to Instagram. So it's about posting pictures. But again, it uses the same ActivityPub protocol. And the nice thing is if you use Mastodon, you can still follow somebody that's posting on PixelFed, and they can follow you, but they use the PixelFed apps because they're more picture and then a bit of text, whereas people might use a Mastodon app because they're more interested in reading text that might also have a picture attached to it. And Mastodon itself, you can have various post types. So you can have text, you can have text with video, you can have text with pictures. They also have a sort of poll system as well, where people ask questions and you get to select one of 4 different answers. But yeah, so if you don't want your site to be your profile, you can go into joinmastodon.org. And in some instances, if you want to be very conversational, you might want a second profile, which is sort of your day-to-day reply to people. But the fact that your WordPress site can post to it means you can get so many more viewers to view your content, especially if you use the hashtags.
Do you think WP Pompey should have a Mastodon?
I do, but I didn't want to load the plugin in case it took it down. So I thought I'll check with you after this and I'll have a little play with it. But if you're happy to give me access to the FTP, at least I can take the plugin out if it all goes horribly wrong.
Well, you can just upload it, can't you? Install it and delete it?
Yeah, just if it takes the back end down because something's wrong, I didn't want it to just, take the whole site down.
I have recently updated it. Steve raised his hand, by the way, so you've probably got a question to ask.
Yes, I'll just do one of the most famous or infamous Mastodon sites is Truth Social, Donald Trump's site.
Well, it uses the ActivityPub protocol, but it's not federated, so it's not really a Mastodon.
So it's running on Mastodon.
Yeah. As in they host a server that uses the software because it's open source software.
Yes.
They don't connect to any other node. So it's not part of the federated universe or the Fediverse. But yes, the guy that created Truth Social charged Trump an awful lot of money. And yet basically he's just using open source software.
Well, did he get paid? That was the thing.
Well, probably not, but apparently there was a huge amount of money for getting Truth Social up and running.
Yeah. Anyway, it probably won't be around for much longer. He's running out of money.
Yes, this is true.
But I just, this choosing the right host is, I think, from my point of view, the most critical part of this. Because if that host goes away, you might not know about it for a while.
Well, it is interesting. So, you are reliant on the fact that there is somebody or a group of people that are running that server for you. And if something happens or they just decide they've had enough, they could switch it off tomorrow. But the Mastodon system itself, if you know something's going to happen, is you can migrate your profile to another server, and that's all built into the system. So if you join one server and then you think, oh, actually, I've just realized there's this really great server. I wish I was over there. You can just migrate your profile to the other server.
The other question is how long before they start charging an arm and a leg for this hosting?
Well, I mean, because it's decentralized, there's not one player in the market, so it will be very difficult for them to do that. So, you know, there is nothing stopping you as a WordPress user using your site as a node for Mastodon, and then you just give everybody a login to your site, which means they have a profile to Mastodon. Now, whether you then start charging them for that, that's a different matter, but they can again migrate their profile somewhere else if they need to.
Yeah. That's all I had.
Thanks, Steve.
I've got a question from the chat. What does the fire emoji mean, Olga?
I just think that it's like amazing and a good presentation. We need all to try it.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Drew. Mike Murphy did say a few months ago that he'd talk about WPMU Dev, and that's all I got from him, and haven't heard from him since. So we won't hear anything from him today about that. We move on. So there was a question from somebody who said, I want to know about how to do step-by-step hosting my own website. And I thought, well, I don't know what the question actually means, but here we go. Let's go back to 17th of June 2020, where we had Vicky Jakes came and gave us 21 steps to creating your own website. And she explained to us how she took a whole load of people through a boot camp that lasted 3 weeks and instructed them to go and do all the different things that you need to do. First thing you do is you buy hosting and or buy your domain, install WordPress, configure WordPress, add plugins, add a theme, configure the plugins, set up the menu, and so on and so forth. That's the timing on the right-hand side there of the video that we recorded of Vicky telling us about it. And all those links are there. Unfortunately, that person isn't here today, so we don't know if we've answered any of the questions you might have asked. Moving on, the next question was from Steve, who said, I want to upgrade from PHP 7.3 to PHP 8.2 in situ. And so I've prepared my replies of what I documented for when I migrated from PHP 7.1 to 7.2, 7.7 to PHP 8.0, and then recently what I plan to do for upgrading to 8.1 and 8.2. And of course, I was doing it on a Windows machine, and Steve's doing it on that funny little box he uses for hosting his stuff. So tell us what you need to know, and let's see if we can tell you an answer.
Yeah, as we discussed at the beginning.
Well, pre-video though, so
yeah, I think I found that PHP 7.3 sort of gets its fingers in everywhere, and after about 2 hours of editing files and trying to remove PHP from things, I still hadn't been able to get it all working. There are files in the HTTP config directories and object libraries and binaries, and it all gets a heck of a mess trying to upgrade. So I and Herb agreed with me, and I think to try to do it on a Linux box or a Unix box, you're better off building a new box. And then you can control it.
I managed to do it in my Windows machine by having two different directories, and then writing a little routine that would switch between the two.
Yeah,
which was
the Apache server configurations get completely messed up by PHP 7.3. They don't get so messed up with 8.2.
Right.
So I think the simple word is, if someone had a magic potion that would allow it to happen, so I'd say thank you very much. Otherwise, I'm going to build a new box.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because you might find I mean, in your site, how many plugins do you use that
Probably
could,
about 15 to 20.
right? And do you run it with WP debug turned on or off?
Off.
Off. And would you turn it on in order to test it when you're installing PHP 8.2?
No, because I've already done a dummy site, a quick and dirty version that I didn't wasn't fully controlled, but I know my site works under 8.2.
All right. Okay. So it's just a case of actually doing it, then set it up and then switch.
It's the question of finding a nice wet day, put a pot of coffee and sit down and do it.
A nice wet day was last night.
Yes.
I think where you've done it all yourself, Steve. I mean, I take my hat off to you for that. But I found I use a development environment called Virtual Min. Sorry, hosting environment called Virtual Min, and I've had no problem with getting up to PHP 8. I just simply do the yum install PHP, whatever it is, off it goes, and it gives me the option in the hosting for any of my sites that I've got on that server to pick what version of PHP I want to run. It's been an absolute bubble.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was something I did with my original PHP installation, which is possible. So I've got another box which I'm going to scrub and put a new Linux install on it and go from there.
Starting again is often as I've found, a very good option.
I started installing Unix about 1983.
Right.
So I have been doing this stuff for a while, and I've done Unix clustering.
Got visions there of you installing Linux and the process still running, and you're just getting to the end of it now, Steve.
No, I mean, I've been doing it for years, so I how to do this stuff. And I was at one point Red Hat certified, so it's not that difficult. I just need to be able to sit down and concentrate and do it.
Yeah,
and it'll be done. Because as I said, the 7.3 installation I've got is sort of it's like the old version of Microsoft Office on a Mac. It spread its wings everywhere, so it was impossible to remove.
Yeah.
So I found references to it in places that it should no right to be there. So, I will do a complete restore, a reinstallation.
Well, good luck, and let us know how you get on. If you want to go and find out how I've been getting on, you can go and look at that link, Bobbing Wide Issues 103, which for every of the different plugins and things I've changed, I've linked back to that thing, and you can see I've spent a month and a half or so just making my code compatible with PHP 8.1 and 8.2, but then I run with WP debug turned on, so I see every single deprecated message that it produces, and I'm really upset that PHP did what they did, because I can't see a usually good reason for it. I certainly can't find the documentation that says why they did those changes.
Handling nulls can be problematic. It always has been. I can go back to the original C compiler days.
Yeah, but we had to do it.
Passing nulls can be an absolute pain in the butt.
We had to do it, and they've had to put some code in there to change it from being able to do it to not being able to do it. And because they've added code in there, I don't know if it would make it faster or slower.
I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure that none of the code I've ever written, and I've written a lot of deep level Unix and Linux code over the years has ever had passed nulls.
Mm.
It's just something that I always hated to do.
It used to handle nulls quite happily with PHP 7 or PHP 8.0, and now it doesn't handle nulls happily anymore, and it's caused me a month's worth of work, so I'm disappointed. Moving on.
Yes.
Moving on. 2024. This is the new theme that comes with WordPress 6.4, and you can get a hold of a copy of it by going to GitHub and downloading it from there, github.com WordPress 2024, or you can install WordPress 6.4 release candidate 2, in which case you'll get it. If you want to find out about what 2024 is all about, you can read a blog post called makewordpress.org, and there's also a tutorial which tells you, if you haven't used a block theme before, how you can switch from a classic to a block theme. And this picture here is a screenshot of 2024, which is 900,000 bytes, which is quite large for a screenshot, and it's bigger than the whole rest of the whole of the code, I think. And it's a very ugly building as far as I'm concerned. There you go. Now, who can tell us about 2024? Can you tell us about 2024, Olga?
I'm not sure that I can tell something worth listening, but everyone should try it and debug and test, because we are in this release candidate stage now, and it's critical right now to make a good result in the end, and it's all about testing. We have a lot of things, small things, and there was a problem with performance, and it was fixed. So there are a lot of patterns there inside this theme. You can play a lot. So you need to give it a try.
Right.
And of course, it's like a good example for your own development, how these things are working.
Well, here we go. Look, I've got 2024 installed in mine. It's not the right latest version, unfortunately. This is 6.4 release candidate 1, but it says it's version 1 here. And I'm running it on WordPress 6.3 point something, but it was actually written to work for 6.4 only. But I made a little change and it now works. So we can have a little look at it if we want. Right. So this is the quicker website that we used for a performance thing many years ago, or many months ago, and I haven't changed very much, apart from the fact that I've started writing a few blog posts to do with artificial intelligence, or what is called artificial intelligence. It hasn't got any intelligence. And we can see it is now running 2024. Previously, it was running Generate Press. Generate Press is a bit wider. 2024 is one of those themes that decides nobody wants anything to be wide anymore. Make it really narrow, except in the important bits. But I'm sure we can modify that. Should we go to Edit Site? So this is WordPress 6.3, editing the 2024 theme, or trying to. Now, it's a long time since I've used the site editor, so you'll have to give me instructions how to do something with it.
I still find this very confusing, really. Yeah. So right. I am not very enjoying the thing yet.
Right. So here we are.
Complicated, a lot of stuff inside.
So this is the home page, and I'm not quite sure what that one's about. Got some help. I've gone into Edit now. Previously, I was just in a preview, and we can see that we have a featured image which hasn't been defined for this page. Now I can probably remove that block if I could get it to show me the menu for it. Why can't I remove that block? Top toolbar. No?
No,
No?
you should open this navigation, but somehow it's not opening yet,
Just
right?
because I'm on 6.3 and it doesn't work properly,
Shouldn't it? Yeah.
or because I'm using a version of Gutenberg that's out of date with it.
Yeah, possibly you have some kind of compatibility issue, but everyone should try it and test and come up with things which are not working as expected. Otherwise, we will have some bugs.
Oh, look, the template now shows me a picture of the template rather than just the name. Maybe I can click on Edit Template. There we go. So I'm editing the template now. And now I can get rid of it.
Cool. It looks like you are always stumbling on something.
That's my space.
Because we have like a lot of stuff inside, possibly.
Yeah. So let's save that. And it should make no difference whatsoever to the site we were looking at. And we've gone back to here because it's just deleted the featured image that I didn't have attached. Okay, fair enough. What else can we do? We can have a look at the different styles. So 2024 comes with 10 different styles, all very similar in terms of colours, I suppose. Fonts might change slightly. Do any of them ever get any wider? Doesn't look like it. So it's a particularly narrow thing, and we can go and edit the styles and go and do all these fancy things to change it. If you're reading all those. So we can go and change the typography for text and links and headings and captions and buttons. That seems to be very light, doesn't it? A light font with a dark background. Very odd. We can change the colours. And here we can see there's the links. The links are very light. Maybe the links are light, but because it's expected them to be a dark background. What did I choose as a style then? I don't know. Did I choose?
Actually, I want to use different styles on different pages. Is it possible? I don't think so, actually.
I don't think so, but you could use well, you can go and edit page.
Multi-site you can
change the
use.
style, or you can use multi-site, yeah. There's menus, there's, patterns. You wanted to see patterns.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a lot of them.
A lot of patterns. So the patterns...
I think so.
These appear to be locked. I don't know what that means. We've got padlocks on them. So I can choose different banners. Here we can see this hero one. You like to call them heroes. And call to actions and so on. And I can click on a pattern. And the pattern now becomes a reusable block. Is that right? How do I choose it? All right, I've got to copy it.
Well, I think you put it into the page, don't you? So when you go into a template, you can insert a pattern into that template. But if you duplicate it, it means you can alter the pattern that's then available for the rest of the site.
Well, I haven't used it for such a long time. I don't know what to do anymore.
Well, I've been playing around with it, and I have to say I still get confused with it. And I was trying to show somebody else how to use the site editor, and there's just too many panels for settings. So you end up going, why won't that go any thinner, or why is that not the width of the site? And it's because you then have to go several steps back, and there's a setting there. And I'm sure somewhere, and I've maybe just dreamt it, and maybe it's something that needs to happen, you can set how something works on a mobile version of it that can be different to the desktop version. So sometimes I've wanted a template where there's a right-aligned image, but on a mobile that doesn't look right. So you want it centered, but I can't see how you do that within the site editor. So either I'm missing something or that's something that I need to put through as a feature request.
There are a lot of tickets on GitHub on Gutenberg already, so you can add another one.
Yeah. Or maybe I just need to get used to it a bit more. But it is one of those things, it's not quite as intuitive as I thought it could be. And that might just be because of the complexity of it. But yeah, it's that sort of thing that I think I've got some clients that are sort of power users. So the idea of them editing their own site isn't actually that far off, but taking them into the site editor is just, you can see their brains exploding when you try to show them what to do.
Yeah, it's complicated things, and if people will be trying like random things on a working site, it can be no good.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I've done that already, and I've changed my style unintentionally. Go back to default. Have you seen these bits where you choose a style book so you can actually style each of the different main components from the style book?
Oh, and you can actually click on them and change them in there.
Theoretically, yeah. So here we've actually got one of my own blocks, which I can now apparently try to style, and another one, the chart block, which I didn't expect to see, because it's added those blocks into there, and now somehow I can go away and style them. How do I do that?
Well, okay.
Oh, they're not there anymore.
Another ticket.
It might be because your block doesn't have the API to allow the change, I guess, but
I don't know. Maybe it's because they're not in the right big. That's text, right? So maybe it's in media or widgets. Oh
yeah.
Widgets.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there. I go and click on that. And that's interesting. But what can I do?
Not very much by the looks of it.
No. But that's nothing to do with 2024. This is just the site editor anyway.
Yeah.
2024 is the theme that is the thing that's installed on this site. And if we go and visit it, we can see we can go and click on a post. Why not? And there's the post, and that's what was written when I asked a question, list the top 10 uses of artificial intelligence in WordPress plugins. And it produced me this list, which wasn't quite a list. Well, wasn't too bad.
The AI that's inside the post editor, is it?
So this was the AI engine plugin I was using there, yes.
Oh, okay.
And here we go. I had to go with Imagine AI. Asked it to produce a picture for me. That's what it came up with. And here I used a thing called Altis Accelerate. Now, I don't want to go too much detail into that because that's what we're going to cover in December, with a bit of luck.
Sounds cool.
So let's move on. It's now nearly 8 o'clock. The next thing that somebody wanted to know was how to build useful custom blocks. And that's all he wrote. And I wrote back and say, what do you mean? And I didn't get a reply. So today I had a quick look and I went to learn.wordpress.org and I searched for block and I found all these different courses and tutorials which you can use if you're going to write a custom block, you can go and see all that sort of stuff, which looks like, well, the course was going to take you quite a long time. About 1,000 people have signed up for that, and the tutorials might be a bit shorter. If you don't want to use learn.wordpress.org, then you can go and have a look at develop.wordpress.org and use the Getting Started Create block. And if you happen to be a person who uses Advanced Custom Fields Pro, then you might want to use ACF Pro to create blocks, which means you're not going to have to write JavaScript to do it. You can do it all in PHP. So the question we go back to is, what is useful and what is a custom block? And since we don't really know the answers to those questions because the person's not here to ask them, or we're not, yes, person's not here to answer any questions we may have, then that's where I would start. Fair enough? Has anyone ever tried doing that? Learn.wordpress.org stuff? Because if you haven't, next month, Abba and a couple of Courtneys should be coming along to tell us all about learn.wordpress.org. So that was some lightning talks, not very well prepared by me, I'm afraid. And then we're moving on to the sort of finishing off stuff. Did you know that SiteGround was one of the global community sponsors? I didn't know that for the first few months of the year, but they have been global community sponsor sometime throughout 2023, so I've added them onto the list here. So thank you very much, global community sponsors, for sponsoring WordCamps and whatever else they do. We've now got 544 meetup members, so we're still growing slightly. The total number of meetup groups has increased by another 8 in the last month or so, which is good, I suppose. Here we have the chart of attendees and joiners and so on over the last few years. WordPress 6.4 is coming along. Yesterday, 6.4 release candidate 2 was released, and next Wednesday it'll be 6.4 release candidate 3, and then soon after that it'll be WordPress 6.4, which would be great. In the meantime, if you want to complete the WordPress annual survey, you can click on that link there, surveyalchemy.com, and off you go. You'll find that link in wordpress.org. So complete the annual survey and you'll get the results sometime at the end of the year or next year. Looking ahead into the future, on the 11th of December, State of the Word 2023 is going to come from Madrid. And there's another link to introducing 2024. Full site editing themes, even though I've not been paying much attention to them, there are now 470 of them published on WordPress.org, and when 2024 comes in, that'll be 471, plus a few more in between there and now and then. And if you consider all the different styles you can choose from, you've got 1,200 different choices you could make. But there are actually 11,418 themes, so you could spend, anyone good at maths, how many years will it take if you spent a day looking at each different theme to decide if you want to do it or not? Quite a few. That's what we did last year. This is what we're doing this year. We're currently on the 25th of October, show and tell again, more lightning talks. Next month, 22nd of November, which is the 4th Wednesday, we'll have learn.wordpress.org. And then on the 21st of December, which is pretty close to Christmas, so it might actually end up in January, we're going to do WordPress and AI. And I think the subject should be, written it down somewhere. What can I use AI for in WordPress at the moment, and how much is it going to cost me? That's the sort of way I'm going to try to approach it. Did you know that WordPress 6.3 has been downloaded 88 million times, and the Gutenberg version is currently 16.8.1, and there's 59,736 plugins, but there's 1,000 of them waiting for review, and it takes 78 days to look at them. 11,400 themes, of which 470 have full site editing, and there's 9.3 billion plugin downloads, and of that, Yoast SEO has counted 600 million plugins in total. Well, if you didn't know that, you do now. And we come to the final slide. I'd like to say thank you to our sponsors from 2018 and ahead. Well, that's it. 8 o'clock. It's a bit quick. What should we do now? Shall I stop recording? We can have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.